Narcissism. How could he, she, they do that? How can this person act so selfishly and so horrifically? I'm going to answer that really difficult question. Hello, I'm Dr. David Hawkins, Director of the Marriage Recovery Center and the Emotional Abuse Institute, where we specialize in all things pertaining to narcissism and emotional abuse. And I'm often asked the question, how can that person treat me this way? They say they care about me. They say they value me. They say they appreciate me. They say they love me. And yet they hurt me again and again and again. How can that possibly happen? I can't make sense of it. Well, I'm going to give you some ways to make sense of it, first of all. But before we even unravel all of this and look at how could the narcissist treat me so badly, I don't know that we can ever fully make sense of it. I don't know that all the pieces fit together. I'm not sure we can put all the puzzle pieces together. What I am sure of is, even though it feels unbelievably personal, how can they do that to me, given what they have said, given who I am? It isn't personal. In all likelihood, it's not personal. Now, of course it becomes personal because they're inflicting harm on you. And of course it's personal because they're not doing everything they can to change. And we're going to talk about that. All right. I want to give you, I've sat down and I've thought about this. How can they treat me this way? I'm going to give you 5 things to think about. I want you just to think about them, by the way. Again, all the pieces of the puzzle won't go together, but I think it'll shed some light on it. Number 1, how can they treat me this way? Number 1, an attitude of arrogance and superiority. Every narcissist has this attitude of arrogance and superiority. They have such a narrow way of viewing things, and they think they're right. They think they've got a handle on it. They have an attitude of arrogance and superiority, black and white, narrow thinking. They really think they've got it all together, and they don't. Number 2, profound emotional immaturity. Profound emotional immaturity. I was talking with someone today about, look, when we go through grade school, we learn that we can't just hit the person next to us even though we're frustrated. We have to raise our hands. There's a thing called comportment. Remember that word, comportment? Johnny had good comportment. Susie had good comportment. Well, guess what? Narcissists, they didn't have good comportment, or they don't now have good comportment, good demeanor, good conduct. So they have this profound emotional immaturity. They haven't been socialized in many ways. Oh, I know, they know how to act right in certain settings. Very true. And they don't act nice in other settings with you. Very true, or mostly true. That's sometimes the definition between true narcissism and emotional abuse is narcissists act badly everywhere, and emotional abusers act badly in only limited settings. But nonetheless, both act badly. They lack emotional maturity, emotional resilience, socialization, knowing the right thing to say at the right time in the right way. Emotional intelligence. So we could also say not only emotional immaturity, but lacking emotional intelligence. Number 3, and so important, an attitude of self-protection. Now, what does that mean? Self-protection, that means they know how to deny, minimize, rationalize, justify, play the victim, make excuses. All of those thinking errors protect them and keep them hopelessly stuck. But come on, when you think about it, when you listen to them, when you look at them, they rationalize their own bad behavior, they minimize their own bad behavior, they maximize things that you may be doing wrong, they maximize your harm, they minimize their harm, and in all of those ways, it keeps them hopelessly stuck. But when I look into the thinking of the narcissist, they really have a narrow view of the world. All right, point number 4. They lack empathy. Duh, Dr. Hawkins, duh. They lack empathy. They're not spending time thinking about what life looks like in your shoes. They're not imagining the impact of their behavior. They're not considering who you are, your individuality, what is happening in your world. No, they are self-involved exclusively. And treatment, which we're involved in, treatment involves cultivating empathy, cultivating emotional intelligence, cultivating emotional maturity, cultivating letting go of arrogance and superiority. All right, so point number 4 is they lack empathy. And the last point, they have a very small dedication for change. I had a man in my men's group the other day who said this to me. He said, I noticed that some of you guys are in Ironman training. That takes a year, learning how to bike long distances, swim long distances, run long distances, and putting it all together. I mean, that's an incredible effort. But you're not doing any of that regarding your personal and emotional development. How shameful, how sad. And so the narcissist has this, let's hit the 5 points again. The narcissist has an attitude of arrogance. The narcissist has an attitude of emotional immaturity and a lacking in emotional intelligence. They have an attitude of self-protection, and they arm themselves with all kinds of defenses to normalize their behavior and their actions. They have an attitude of a lacking in empathy. And then lastly, they lack any kind of dedication for change. If they want to change, and if they really want to change, they will engage in arduous actions, which they are available now. Treatment is available, but they've got to really dive in for treatment. And if they dive in, then change can be possible. All right. How could he, she, they do this to me? Remember, it's not personal. Remember, they're choosing not to grow. And if they choose to grow, if they somehow hit some kind of a bottom and they decide, it's time for me to grow up, they can let go of an attitude of arrogance. They can develop emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. They can confront their thinking errors and all the myriad ways that they distort truth and reality. They can develop an attitude of empathy and compassion, and they can be totally dedicated to change. All right, I am very interested in what you think about these notions and these ideas. How could he, she, they do this to me? Well, they do it. It's not to me. They do it to other people too. And I want to know what you think about this. All right, so tell me what you think. Tell me if you would like any additional help from us at the Marriage Recovery Center. Contact our client care team, and we are willing and able to help you. All right, take care, and as always, God bless.